everybody, and welcome back to another Good Doctor video. I know it's been a while since I've done one, so I thought I'd do another one today. And this is season 1 episode 4 and episode 5 review, and it's from my own personal perspective, so let's get into it. One thing I don't like about episode 4 at the very beginning is that Dr. Mendez is talking to Dr. Murphy, the savant autistic doctor, and he talks down to him about a situation that they're discussing with regards to a patient's medical care. I do realise this does still happen nowadays in medical society, in hospitals, clinics, etc. And then we see Dr. Murphy leave his shift to go to the bus to go home. And whilst he's on the bus, he realises that he goes one stop past his usual bus stop. So he feels the bus driver should have told him that he missed the stop. This then slowly increases his anxiety. Being on the autistic spectrum, we are very blunt and we have common sense that can be often very offensive. Because again, we have a communication disorder. With Dr. Murphy's case, he gets overwhelmed very quickly. He gets meltdowns. He can't process information. He's very aware of his environment. And he's a very good doctor, but at the same time, he is very much blunt and to the point, and actually can cause some offence with what he says during this episode. And then we see Dr. Murphy back at work again, where he's talking about sensory issues, especially the key factor being touch. When someone touches us that we don't know, we can get quite heightened and edgy because we're not expecting to be touched. So again, that's one of our trigger points. We do have a lot of sensory issues, and it's touch, taste, sight, smell, and seeing. So yes, the fact that he tells a colleague he doesn't like being hugged because it feels like he's been squashed or squeezed, and I can relate to him a bit because of this, because when you are being hugged, sometimes it feels like someone's actually trying to really hurt you, even though you know that they're not actually trying to hurt you. They're just actually trying to make you feel better and make you feel reassured and less stressed out. So I can understand what it's like for him saying that he feels like he's been squeezed. It's like, ouch. Yes, so it's that. I can understand where he feels with that. And also, it's about how to appropriately communicate with somebody. So it's about Dr. Murphy communicating effectively and the right way with somebody in his environment in that episode. And then he goes to see the landlord about his apartment, because I believe it was the taps weren't working properly and they kept making a dripping noise, which was driving him to go into meltdown. And he said to the landlord, he's like, you need to fix this, you need to fix this. And woke him up at midnight, which obviously isn't really appropriate to be waking someone up at midnight when you're trying to get something fixed, and that could have waited till the morning. But Dr. Murphy felt heightened and quite scared about this noise, and it's making him panic and lack of sleep. So again, it caused him anxiety, so he started sleeping on the job at work and sleeping in the janitor's closet. So it's things like that that can cause quite a lot of sensory overload, anxiety, heightened triggers, noise, background, environment, such and such. And instead of the landlord helping him to fix the problem, it was basically that the landlord told him to basically go away, and if he kept waking him up, that he would basically not answer the door and to stop banging on his door late hours in the evening because he was trying to sleep. So again, that's the miscommunication. It was again the fact that the landlord was just not willing to work with him or understand him. So Dr. Murphy does need to check his decisions with seniors before he carries out something. Dr. Murphy is very headstrong in his opinions. He's very outright, blunt, and very forceful with what he wants to be doing. But again, that's part of being on the spectrum, because we are that way. We are natural people who are very opinionated. We are very headstrong. We know what we want. We go for it. We say what we feel. And sometimes we need to have a little filter just to stop. But we don't, because what we see is very logic up in our brain. So again, that can be a bad thing. And again, he's obviously too honest and blunt and direct. When he tells patients that there's something wrong with them, he doesn't do it in the way that it should be done. Like, hey, like, this is what we need to do, and this is what's wrong with you. It's like, you have such and such, such and such. And I'm like, ooh, like, that's a bit of a bad bedside manner, to be honest with you. So again, it's the way that you effectively communicate with the patient. It's the way that people with autism struggle to be between blunt and honest, but at the same time, it's being appropriately and using empathy and compassion to understand somebody. So again, it's about sensory perception, sensory processing, and knowing how to not get yourself in trouble, but at the same time, that does overload him. So he does say that he sees colours, and the flashing and the music in the scene was too overwhelming. So again, it's about processing. So episode 5 is a follow-on from episode 4. So in this scene, we see Dr. Murphy learning to pick up sarcasm and emotions. And he was joking with the staff in the scene, which I really liked, because they were giving him time to process it. They're giving him time to speak and being listened to and valued. And even though he admitted to a patient he was treating in this scene as well that he had autism and that he finds things difficult, like knowing where and when he should tell the patient what they have or what they're planning to do with regards to treatment. So again, it's that communication barrier. It's knowing when to say something and when not to. So when you are giving a diagnosis to somebody, with people on the spectrum, you have to be very, very careful. Say it logic, clear, to the point, because people like Dr. Sean and I, who are on the spectrum, can find it very, very overwhelming. So again, it's that barrier of how to say things. And also I can understand that in this scene, Dr. Murphy could have got into a lot of ethical trouble, because the way that he gave his patient false hope, he was promising things that couldn't be done. So again, it's that risk of being misdiagnosed, and also medical negligence comes into play on this episode. And the fact that he went to tell his patient's parents that he thought the patient had cancer. And you don't really make that cool, especially if you're a junior or you're a resident, as they call it in America. You don't go and tell someone's parents that they have cancer unless you're 100% sure that you have all the scans, everything else in place beforehand. And again, it's about lack of empathy, lack of compassion, lack of communication. And working in that medical environment is a hard thing to do. So I can understand why he got overstimulated and kind of just shut down and kind of ignored it, because he was getting too bombarded with the information. So, you know, when you're talking to someone on the spectrum, just please give us a little bit of time to process things and, you know, make sure that we understand what's being expected of us. And I hope you've liked this little review of episode 4 and 5. Please like, comment, share and subscribe, and I will be back next time. Bye!